Okay, this is a video I'm making talking about a modular commerce solution that I'm actually working on. So in this presentation, I'll be going over who am I and what am I doing, why am I doing this, the actual architecture of the project, the current state of the project, and it's going over a conclusion of what I'm talking about. So section one, who am I and what am I actually doing? So my name is Cooper. I'm an Eagle Scout and Order of the Arrow member. I'm a current sophomore, graduating in 2028 at ASU Polytechnic, studying software engineering and economics. And I've used a variety of e-commerce platforms. Shopify, I launched a print-on-demand store, a dropshipping store, and then a simple physical store for one of my neighbors. And then I've worked on WordPress and WooCommerce for both e-commerce related things and non-commerce related projects. Medusa.js, I built a website for a client using it. I love the experience, but obviously I have some feedback, which is why I'm making this. And then Sailor Commerce is something that I really enjoyed working with. So the goal. The goal is to build a modular and composable event-driven e-commerce platform using PayloadCMS and Next.js. If you haven't heard of Next.js, this is probably not the video for you. Um, or if you don't like Next.js, because this video is heavily using both of these products. But Payload CMS, I stand by. Horrible, horrible documentation. I wouldn't wish it upon my worst enemy. But it's an amazing platform. It allows you to build systems to integrate with data solutions. It has built-in authentication. It has decent UI. It has semantic styling. It has a lot of wonderful things that is what really is making this system possible. And so, why am I doing this? So, um, I was approached by a friend, the one that I made the Medusa.js website for, and they told me they would like to start their own e-commerce website. I said that this would be great and that I would do some research. Platforms like Shopify are amazing. They're really easy out of the box, drag and drop. You can customize your front end, back end, although there is some downsides. I'll cover that later. It's the same downsides with like WordPress and WooCommerce. Medusa.js is a wonderful headless solution, but it requires a really, it has a very steep technical learning curve to it, which is fine if you really have enough time to put into it. But this could be a big problem if you're trying to launch on a deadline. And then Sailor Commerce is great out of the box, but as an egregious hosting plan, making you kind of have to run it locally, which is not a problem, but then you lose out on their app store. And so here are some of the product features, pros and cons. If you'd like to pause and read them, um, that's awesome. If not, I'll just kind of go over a little quick highlight. So Shopify, full hosted all-in-one e-commerce platform. It's got marketplace. They've got built-in payments through Stripe Connect. They have the checkouts, admin UI, all of these app platforms that you can easily integrate with, and a lot of people build for it. You can launch and build your store in 30 minutes. It's reliable, scalable, super well supported. Weakness is, of course, limited backend flexibility, as in there's none. You can't customize, you can't do anything. You can't build custom workflows. You have to build through their apps, through their interfaces. And this is a big thing for developers and even small business owners who might have this one custom niche thing that they need to integrate. And then platform lock-in. So you can't transfer your data out. Maybe you could do it through a CSV file for orders and through products, but it's not going to be the easiest solution. And you can't take your data. It's their data, it's their platform. You stop paying the fees, your website's gone. Same thing with Squarespace, except Squarespace isn't as built for e-commerce. It's more so just for selling online with a beautiful drag and drop website builder that they support. Super easy, non-technical, very limited depth in terms of e-commerce. Great in terms of like front-end development, but very limited in e-commerce. So Medusa.js, I really recommend it, and it's actually what inspired this project for me. Um, it has incredible headless commerce engine. It's built in these really modular systems. You have the ability to link data, create new data, workflows, subscribers. It's super event driven, although it's an incredible learning curve. And you can't build your own UI. Like there's widgets that you can add, say I want this to appear in this section, but you can't say I want to replace the logos, I want to have it a different name, I want it to stop saying Medusa, I want it to say my own thing. There's none of there's none of that, which is fine for small businesses, like I said, who I just need to kind of get up and running. But for medium-sized businesses, this is gonna be a drawback because you might want your UI to be a certain way. And then WooCommerce and WordPress, I know they run like 70% of the internet, but they're kind of just crap. So our solution, my solution, is an e-commerce backend to front end constructed with PayloadCMS and Next.js. It's built with customizable data collections, hooks, events, and plugin slash provider based design. So here's the actual architecture. Tech stack, we have the web and worker solutions, which are kind of splitting payload. Web handles API interactions, and worker is workflows, cron jobs, stuff that would really drag down the system. We're using PostgreSQL, PostgreSQL. Oh my God, my bad. Because that's really easy and native, and I could launch it on Coolify, Docploy, and any other Docker solution super easily. Redis is handling our events, and MinIO is our S3 storage. External products is we're using Umami for web analytics, and then some of our default providers and modules that we're going to ship for is Stripe for online payments, which will also then have integrations with Terminal, and then Square for kind of in-person. Shippo and ShipStation will have address verification, label creation, tracking, all of this, resend for email, notifications, and Twilio for text-based. So here's our high level overview, and we'll kind of work our way down. So we have our front ends, our visual side of it, and that's what allows our admins and users to actually interact and understand the data. So it's querying products, creating new products, reading the catalog, looking at features, stuff like that. Webhooks allow for the external event pulling and pushing and the connection mapping to internal events. So it allows you to send out external events saying, oh, this is now the new state of this thing, and then also pull back these external events such as Stripe for payment authorization, collection, rejection, stuff like that. Shipping for tracking, it's now hit a new station and we want to let the customer know. Modules and providers will create, and we'll talk about this a little bit later in the video, but there's providers that we define through an interface, and they allow you to then build in your own custom features and functionality, which then connect to collections so that you can have this rule-based interaction. So maybe certain transactions you want to go through um, Stripe for payments because they're online or within a certain region that's served. Otherwise, you would like them to go through Square because maybe they have favorable rates or something. They do not. Stripe is better for that situation, but that's just an example of something you could set up. Core workflows, they handle the essential commerce workflows and events. So that would be someone adds something to a cart, an event is then emitted, it then reserves the inventory for that variant. It calculates prices, taxes, and whatever, so that when you hover over your cart, it can show you the actual prices that you're going to be paying at checkout. And then also it makes sure that that event is reserved for you until your cart expires or you check out, making it so that you don't actually over order something. Unless in your collection you define and check the box that says, yes, let's not worry about inventory. We can sell as many as we want. Event layers, these are events emitted upon CRUD actions on collections, globals, or anything like that. And these are what trigger subscribers and these workflows that could be custom built. And then collections is the data layer. So it defines the interactions and storage of information for the whole website and system. And so here's the layers kind of broken down into a different visual sides. So we have data layer, which shows, which is a really cool thing about Payload is they're actually typed. And so these collections are defined through type, so you could have type safety, but then there's also through Drizzle ORM, immediately push to the database upon changes. They provide CRUD hooks, so you can create your own hooks for create, update, delete, for not only the whole collection, but also field-based. So maybe you only want to send out an email for a email change on a customer field or a phone change, or so that you could test some sort of new verification. That's something that you can build through this custom CRUD hook system. And then so we have the visual and config based. So visual through the UI, admin UI, and then config through the payload CMS collection configs. And then the event layers, there's a variety of events, order.created, customer.created, customer.updated. There's about 30 events I'm planning on integrating. And then trigger by hooks. So this means that these events, like I was mentioning before, when a hook is then created upon some sort of CRUD operation, triggers these events. These events are then emitted and then stored in a collection log or event log collection for item potency so that we can have track life cycles, and so that if events are emitted multiple times. For example, customers update twice, three times, four times. Um, Multiple emails aren't sent in case there was a problem with the backend or the backend was acting sluggish, stuff like that. So it just handles the whole entire lifecycle management. Core workflows, this is, as I was mentioning earlier, reserving items for checkout, handling taxes, verifying fulfillment, all of these. And so we will pre-build these workflows to handle the base e-commerce flows. But then after that, there's a whole bunch of workflows that you can implement that can do whatever you want in this world. And then module providers, these are custom interfaces that allow for custom providers to be added. So for example, we ship with Stripe and Square and you don't want Stripe and Square. Instead, let's say you want, actually, I can't, I'm blanking on stuff, but you want lemon squeezy, something like that. And you can then integrate with and build out your own custom system, your custom provider that has these defined interfaces. Again, we'll have a picture of this later on. And so you can build out your own solution to handle your own systems, and they are rule-based, which is really nice. So you only want lemon squeezy to handle recurring subscriptions, then you want physical products to be handled through Stripe, and then Square to handle subscriptions. You could define all of this through this UI collection system um, for the providers that you've built. And blocks. So this is the front end stuff. Blocks are customizable front end components for data and UI. So we'll ship with about 20 different blocks. So those are heroes, highlights, image carousels, product features, product catalogs, all of the different good drag and drop systems that then make your website your website. Then we have semantic styling. These are semantic tokens for universal styling. So an example would be text-primary, background-UI-base. And so these are in a styling folder, and this allows you to update the whole website's styles um, in any manner that you want to kind of make it feel like your own. So you can adjust alert colors, UI colors, text colors, background colors, all of that. And then we have the standard payload features, so we can have redirects, forms, pages, posts, docs, SEO, and a whole bunch of other features that make it so you can get the most out of your website. And then notifications, this was something that I really wanted to make for the system is a drag and drop system for React emails, um, which is going to be similar to the blocks that I mentioned in the front end, but these are email blocks that allow you to build custom emails for custom logic that can then be triggered by these workflows and subscribers that you set up on your back end. And then customizable messages for notifications. So just kind of all bringing everything together into one system as opposed to having a bunch of different systems and providers all over the place for like if you were in Shopify, you then need to set up Resend, you need to set up Twilio. All of these different things can then be integrated in one space, one dashboard, one unified system. So our main tenets that we kind of live by for this is extensibility. So it allows developers to easily expand features and functions of the base system with limited technical knowledge through like providers, modules, collections, all of this, making it really easy for new features to be built out. So customizability, completely unique experiences through drag and drop solutions, as well as through code. So like the configs that I was talking about for blocks and pages, but then defining your own colors through the semantic styling tokens, modifying with your own styling on the actual blocks in the front end through TypeScript and React. A lot of different options and functionality to make it exactly as you would like. And so our powerful data layer. Dozens of typed collections that allow for instant deployment to any SQL database. What's cool about Postgres or Payload is it allows for a bunch of different types of SQL databases. This project is using PostgreSQL, um, and it also supports Mongo, Supabase, and any other SQL database. And then events. Really happy to build an event-driven system because it allows us to truly customize the entire experience. So we'll have 25 plus custom events with data payloads that are emitted upon CRUD actions done to collections, and then they're synced with an event log for event log collection for item potency. That's for managing the life cycle and making sure stuff isn't called. If it is called more than once, it only occurs once because you don't want people to be charged more than once. You don't want people to get a bunch of emails. So that is really important. So you can pause and look at this. These are our core collections. So we can manage regions, stock locations, products which have variants, subscription plans, inventory. You can define categories, collections. And then we have internals like embedded collections, which aren't going to be modified by users, but instead are used for accounting purposes. So order items, shipping line, tax lines, conditions and tracking and refunds and promotions and pricings and payments, and all of these allow you to completely build your own solution anywhere in the world, handling multi-region, multi-inventory, multi-location systems. And it has built-in localization through our region and IP configurations for using free IP API allows us to determine the region's location, and then has a layout to remember that person's region. And then it also uses auth for customers to make sure that it's secure for everybody's purposes. So this is just some analysis of the collection. So customers, it's an auth collection that has been set up to support logins, registrations, email verification, password resets, forgotten passwords, and more. And then this collection would then own and relate to orders, addresses, carts, and purchases. And then products allows the user to define, this would be the admin user, to define relations to product media, categories, collections, prices, variants, types, and so much more. And then order would contain all the information on the order, like fulfillment, taxes, shipments, products, who the customer ordered to, where, creating your invoices. So all of these can then be built out systems. And then this is a data relation. I was talking a lot about it earlier. On the image to the right at the very bottom, is a definition through a collection config, and you can see how it relates to these other collections. And then on the top right is how you could see it being managed through UI. And so it's really easy to then create these customer groups and addresses and orders and just manage the whole entire system through UI, but also set up new systems through code, just by adding new fields. And then Drizzle ORM would then go in and update your databases to manage this whole system. And then so events, we have the README on the left is kind of a code view, and then on the right side is a slideshow kind of view. And so we have CRUD operations, which then trigger, which CRUD hooks on collections that then trigger events. These events are then stored in an event log, where then subscribers are then notified. They can then call workflows, tasks, jobs, and then manage the emissions of other events. They're custom listeners that can then be set up to do any sort of action. And then custom logic. So these exclude base workflows for core features. Those will obviously be required and marked as like do not disturb, do not touch, do not modify, because that might have unintended consequences. But then these workflows can be custom built to then have any sort of feature, any sort of action the developer can think of. And so providers, I was mentioning a lot about this. So we have collections, which like for example, a fulfillment collection, a payment collection. These would then define um, what type of provider is there you're like actually interacting with, along with what it's able to do. So has address validation, dynamic shipping rates, um, tracking features, capabilities, and then it'll store API keys or references to API keys because we want it to be as secure as possible, and more. And then registries, what actually takes the key that you put into the collection and maps it to the actual register provider. And so, for example, that'd be like Shippo to Shippo provider, Stripe to Stripe provider. The resolver then handles the request sent to it and then routes the actions, events, or data to the correct module, and also allows for dynamic rules and instantiation. So a collection might say, only use um, this for this region, only use this for this region because of variables that like we can't account for personally, but the business owner has to take into account. And so the resolver would then handle all of that. And then the actual provider is an interface that the user can extend to provide these core features and functions. And so the image on the top left is the registry for the fulfillment module. So we right now have only Shippo, but you can have manual where you handle it on your own, which doesn't do anything. It just simply sends you the data. ShipStation, which would be another alternative. And then in the middle picture is the actual resolver. So this handles the fetching of which ones are allowed, which ones aren't allowed, which rules are there, and then maps it to the actual um, provider. And again, these pictures are very base case. We haven't gotten to this yet. This is example layouts and systems that will eventually be built. But right now we are actually on the event management system. That is our current state. We've finished the data layer and now working on the events. Finished as in all base cases. We don't have extended functionality yet, but we've built the products, the variants, the payments, the systems like that. And then on the right side, we have the interface example I was talking about. So it has the fulfillment capability. So this is what you can select in the actual collection. Does it have address verification? Does it have rates, labels, returns? And then the record is defining, yeah, is it test? Is it live? The key, the name, capabilities, config, is it active? And then the fulfillment provider is this interface that you have to define and then extend. So you have to build your own function for the validate address or the get rate or the generate label or generate tracking, and then it then exports that provider so that could be used by the registry and the resolver. And so our current pros, cons, and features list. So collections, typed collections for easy database interactions, easily customizable and extendable. Strengths, it's built through PayloadCMS, Drizzle ORM, and Next.js for easy database interactions. Again, super customizable, extendable, and dynamic. You can then even put in custom auth for admin, staff, customers, guests. Weaknesses, you will need to be familiar with TypeScript. That is what this project is built in. And then it's somewhat opinionated in the actual names of fields and the relationships between collections and ownership of data. Events will ship with a bunch of pre-built events, and then it's ease of use for additional events to for these collections for you to be able to add and modify and change whatever you want. It's easy to follow and implement. We'll have samples, documentation, and then also there's the payload documentation and dozens of videos out there on how to use payload because this is going to be built with 100% payload. And then core workflows established with core events will make some events required. And that makes sense because you don't want to break the whole system. You'll be able to override and do all that stuff because the code will be available to you, but it just wouldn't be recommended. Providers, so it'll be easy to use providers. You can use it through collections, you can use it through extending these interfaces. The whole system is set up so that you can succeed. And it's completely dynamic and modular. So you can set up your own rules, allocations, and again, 100% customizable. Downside is it is deployed and built um, during the non-runtime, so you won't be able to simply go to some sort of app store, plugin store, and connect to it. And you will need to be familiar with APIs, TypeScript, and the actual providers you want to integrate with. The admin UI is something I'm pretty proud of. Payload CMS has widgets, and so we're going to ship with a bunch of widgets that'll have a bunch of customizable sizing, fields, descriptions, all of this that'll make it so that you can build your own custom UI that's specific to the user. So employee number one might want it this way, employee number two might want it this way, admin might need to see all of this stuff. And so widgets will be spec'd to the auth type and will also be spec'd to the user. And so it'll be easy to change the entire system because again, we have these semantic styling, these semantic components, and it'll be easy to change everything because there is actually React and TypeScript built blocks for the front end. So again, a current state, we have built our collections, we've built our styling tokens, we've now implemented auth for the admin and staff along with customer auth. Events are then being connected up to hooks at this moment, and then core UIs is what is being built next with stuff like shop and catalog and dashboard being built out. But currently we have headers, footers, navigation, customer auth. Um, already existing, along with stuff like get regions, get user information, and custom built data solutions so you can easily extend. Again, that is the goal of this whole project is to be modular, is to extend, and is to be completely custom to whatever the user wants. And so the future, as I was mentioning, the current state is very early into this. I'd say we're like 5% done with this project. And I plan to take the next year to build out this whole thing. And the goal is to be, again, unopinionated, powerful, and modular, like Medusa.js, but with an open UI and a more open system for how things are done. And then this again will take probably around a year. Monetization is something I'm unsure on. At this moment, I'm not sure whether I would do a one-time licensing deal with customers so you can outright buy the whole package of code and then do whatever you want with it, except like resell it to users. Or do I make the whole project open source, but then offer my own hosting solution similar to that of Sailor? Um, Monetization is not really the goal of this project. I just really kind of want to build something that I think the market is missing and this niche market is missing for for building your own e-commerce solutions. Um, and I really think this would be a really fun project to build and will help me learn a lot along the way. And so again, goals, I'd like to add a variety of extra features, stuff like product reviews, customer wish lists, and then a bunch of other little quality of life things like maybe remembering customer payment information and payment solutions. And then again, this is not the priority to build out these extra little features, and the main priority is really um, uh, like building out this core system to make it so that anybody can do anything, and then they take on the responsibility of building out these custom solutions as they see fit. I just need to handle the base cases, make sure it works for subscriptions, digital products, physical products, bundled products, like the core commerce. And then I just wanted to say thank you so much. Uh, I really appreciate you listening to all of this, and I hope you found some of it interesting, or at least made you think a little bit. If not, I'm really sorry, but have a good one.